If I click the button. Hey, everybody. Happy, I think, Wednesday. I don't even know what day it is, right? I know, just know what I'm supposed to be doing. Anyway, super excited. I get to have and share with you my most amazing friend, Cheldin Barlatt Rummer, who is, I'm just going to let you introduce yourself because I'm not going to do it justice.
Stop.
Media goddess is my description of you.
You are so funny. Well, first, I love hanging out with you, so thank you so much for having me. I'm Cheldin Barlatt Rummer. I am the executive producer and CEO of the This Is It network. We are a digital platform, a digital TV network based in Philly. We connect remarkable women to inspiring stories, and we do it through digital TV and talk shows. So it's so super, super fun. Emmy and I have hung out for years, and I'm glad to, sharing some wisdom with you. I'm proficient within personal branding as a skill, and I teach that often.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about that. And before we dive in, I just want to say, go and check out Cheldin's show. I've been on there a number of times. So we have just the most fun time. We laugh the whole time. But you tell women's stories in such an incredible way that's so authentic and allows them to shine. And I want to thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome. I mean, it is my honor and my duty. I found my thing. Yeah. And I'm doing my best to thrive in that thing. And it feels good. It's as much, I call it a kind of selfish career. It's as much for me as it is for all of you. And I'm lucky to do it for sure.
Yeah. So let's dive into personal branding, and let's define it first, because I want to make sure that we're all on the same page.
Yeah.
And if you have questions too for people who are either watching this live or you're watching the replay, put them in the comments and we'll answer.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. I'm here for the question. So personal branding, by my definition, is what people say and think about you in your absence. That is personal branding for me. It's not necessarily what you think of yourself or what your grandmother thinks of you or even what your husband thinks of you, your employees think of you. It's the conversations that happen about you in your absence, when no one is there, when you are not there to explain, defend, promote yourself. That is in essence your personal brand. And what we do every day is to work towards ensuring that your personal brand is exactly how you want those conversations to go.
Right. Which I love, because sometimes I think of personal brand as image branding, which is a part of it, I would think.
100%. 100%. And I think it's all encompassing. For me, it's really about your story, and your story is, a tool of your story is how you look. Another tool of your story is your social media and your website. Another tool is when you part your lips to speak. Some people that's a hard tool to master.
Right. Not you and I.
There's a number of different tools that support what is your story. And I think that a lot of people get nervous about sharing their personal brand because their stories change so often, and they don't know exactly how their stories will be received. So they leave the storytelling up to someone else. And that's when it becomes dangerous, because then you can't control the stories that happen and the conversations that happen about you when you're not there.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So for somebody who's like, oh my God, I don't even have a story.
Yes.
Right. Where do they get started?
Yeah. And I think the first acknowledgement is that, yes, you do. You do have a story. And for all of us who have been doing whatever we've been doing, even if you haven't had your business for this long, or even if you're a 22-year-old person, or if you are a 50-year-old person, you have pedigree or experience within your life. And tapping into that as a story is so, so important. So many people, I can't tell you the amount of people that I work with. I primarily work with women, but these women that have worked in their industry of choice for decades, which would in turn make them proficient in what it is that they're doing, would not part their lips to share their expertise. They belittle it or don't think that it's worth telling. What I'm saying is that the amount of time that you've spent, whether it's volunteer, whether it's career-based, whether it's in any way helping to build and support the business that you're creating or the career that you're creating, it's worth telling. So for me, I call it your highlight reel. And focusing on your highlight reel is super, super important. So I love Bon Jovi. I do. It's a thing. It's a weakness.
Really?
I love it. I know it's random, but really inappropriate. but let's break the news. I love him. And so when I go to a Bon Jovi concert, which I've been to plenty, when I go to a Bon Jovi concert, I want him to play his greatest hits. I don't want him to play the one soul-searching song that he made up in his basement that his mother loved. I don't care. I want you to play all of the greatest hits. And I think that that's a lesson that we all need to really focus on. The people that have what we want to hear our greatest hits. They don't want to hear things, the sob story or why you've changed your major or why your first business didn't work. We want to hear about your successes. And so focusing on that is important.
Yeah. And I would say, like, in that situation too, like, people don't even want to hear the new stuff.
No, the classics.
Yeah.
They want your seriously, they want your classics. And as business owners and as storytellers, we feel as if we are overplaying a certain song. Mm-hmm. We feel that, right? We're like, oh my God, everybody's heard it before. Everybody has heard this before. Everybody has heard this. But a telltale in marketing, branding, publicity is repetition. That's how it stays. There's a reason why I'm associated with Scream Your Dream, and it's Scream Your Dream this and Scream Your Dream that. It's repetition. And to be stopped in the grocery store for somebody to say, Scream Your Dream, means that what I'm doing is working. If you, you know what I mean? Like, if you follow all of the people that are really, really hot now, the Rachel Hollises, the Marie Forleos, the Mel Robbins, they have their shtick. They have this Gary Vee. They have their stories. They have the same 5 stories. And we replay them and re-listen to them in the car as we're walking, as we're working out, over and over again. We're not feeling as if we've heard it before. We're utilizing it and tapping into their highlight reel. So
yeah, and I think that's such an amazing point too, because 2 things. One, I had a coach who he and his wife are in business together, and they told the same story about how, like, their origin story over and over again at every thing.
Yeah.
And he said to me, he's like, we are so sick and tired of telling the story. We are so sick and tired of telling this story. Like, I want to tell another story. And we don't, because people come up to us, and even though they've heard the story 72 times, they get something else out of it.
They get something else out of it. And so you audition new stories, though. So that's why it's a deal of, like, let's say I say 3. I do everything in 3s. My birthday's on the 3rd, so my life is in 3s. So
I'm about the 3.
Right. So if, I have 3 of everything. And so if you have 3 highlights that you reference, I was very young when I started working at Borgata Hotel, Casino and Spa in Atlantic City, for those of you that are on the East Coast. That's part of my highlight reel, right? Opening a $1 billion property. It's something that I reference. I'm an adjunct professor at Temple. That's part of my highlight reel, right? I own This Is It TV. It's part of my highlight reel. Those are the things that I reference. Have I had jobs in between? Absolutely. Have I had other accomplishments? Yes. And then as the conversations go, you tap into those things. I was a Division I athlete. I'm an immigrant. All of these different things that are part of your story, focusing on that. The other thing is that you're going to find new stories, and you're going to test those stories. Just like people test music, right? Mm-hmm. They're going to put it out in a single, and it's either going to work or it's not going to work. And so you're going to test those stories, and the more people gravitate towards them, or the more people connect with them, the more you play it.
Right.
But that's a proper way to look at it.
Awesome. I love that. I want to dive in a little bit deeper too. Like, so we've got our stories, right? But that doesn't necessarily create the conversation of what's said when you've left the room.
No.
That's just one little piece of it, right? Like, and really about building the initial level of the brand of who you are.
Yeah.
So what's, like, the next step for them?
And for me, it's really about, right, you have the story, you're opening up people up into knowing you. The first thing they do after they have genuine interest is they Google you. That's the first scenario. Oh my gosh, Emmy. Oh yeah, Cheldin, you should meet Emmy. Okay. As we're having this conversation, I'm in the phone. Emmy, how do you spell Kirshner? Okay. And I'm looking you up.
Right.
What needs to happen is that your online brand needs to match your offline story. It needs to match. It can't be disconnected. That's the ultimate next step, because what the people are going to do once they're in love with the story is they're going to try to buy the album, right? They're going to try to download the music. And if it's not there and it doesn't sound the same, are they not disappointed? They're like, this is the song that I fell in love with. right? This isn't the song that Cheldin sold me. This isn't the Emmy that I was looking for. So you need to make sure that it's consistent as it relates. And what that looks like is really doing an audit of your online presence. And it's as simple as Googling yourself to start, but then really being able to pay attention and see, does everything match up, right? So if you are, a lot of things that I give for women and men, if you are Steve, are you Steven or you Steve? Are you Stephanie or you Steph? Are you Kimberly or are you Kim? Like making sure that your brand is consistent across the board, right? My mom calls me Kim and my daughter calls me, pick a lane and drive it. You get involved, right?
By the way, Sheldon's a little direct, people.
Yeah. And because ultimately, at the end of the day, you want people to be able to find you, and you want to make it as easy for them to find you as possible. And so if you have them going on a scavenger hunt to kind of figure out what your name is or what the proper spelling is today versus tomorrow you're going to change it to something else, it just makes it difficult for them to buy your album or justify, you know, what it is your story is.
Do you feel like it's important too to mesh like the personal and the business together? And I'm not saying like share every moment of your personal life, but people want to connect and see the vulnerability and the authenticity.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I personally think, as another definition or another justification for personal branding, is people don't buy products or services. They don't. They buy personalities and experiences. That's what they buy. There's a lot of people that you will not pay that have good products that you just because you don't like them. There's a lot of people you continue to pay that don't have good products because you like them, right? That's just what it is. You go to a restaurant, you know the soup's always cold, but the waitress knows your name. Like it's one of those things in the nature of things because we want to feel a certain type of way. So I think that it's really, really important that all is cohesive and that all really goes together nicely. That's, you know, for sure.
Right. Awesome. Because I know that took me a really long time. I wanted to have like some separation and privacy.
Yeah.
And I still don't post a ton about my personal stuff, but I do about my kids, which sometimes they're less happy about than others.
Fair.
But
it needs to be appropriate. I think that what a lot of people, I think that especially this generation that's growing up, and even us who maybe started in the MySpace, aging myself, the MySpace of things, and like as things kind of got a little older, is that we feel entitled to social media. We feel like, I breathe, so I post, right? Kind of thing. And so we don't take it as, you know, an advertising mechanism, and it is a support of your personal brand. You don't have to post things that are not in your favor.
Right.
Like, so I think that where this new generation feels the need to overshare everything and not, in essence, manage their brand, they're not obligated to share what's not in their favor. They should be creating their brand and putting forth reasonably and authentically the things that support what it is that they want. So, yeah.
For me, like my kind of rule of thumb is like, don't share things when you're in the freak out. Yeah. Share the freak out when you've had time to reflect on
it. Right. I love that. I absolutely love that. And I think there's a vulnerability. I mean, I think that it's just common taking your offline practices, your offline manners, and bringing that sensibility online is a key testament, right? You wouldn't walk into the mall, even though you had something crazy is going on at work, you wouldn't walk into the mall and start screaming, right? Everybody, oh my God. Did I say walk into a bar? No, I said walk into a mall. You wouldn't walk.
I look forward to being able to walk into either at some point.
Exactly. Or like Main Street or outside. You wouldn't just be on a ranch. You wouldn't, you know, be literally naked in a public place, right? You wouldn't. So that same sensibility needs to be applied to your social media scenarios. What you would do outside is what you should do online. And I think that if you use that as a benchmark, right? So if you wouldn't parade your children around the mall and tell everybody how pretty they are, then you wouldn't necessarily do that online. If your child is ready, right? If your child is dressed to go see Santa or the Easter Bunny, right? Is how you present them to the world. And I think it's about doing, being responsible for your voice and being prepared for the ramifications of what you put out into the world. But I think that if you are responsible and you use your common sense manners and you understand that what you put out is a reflection of your brand and business, then you'll win in the personal branding category, and sharing your family and your personal life won't be an issue.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's incredible. So what if somebody has a tarnished brand or a mixed match brand? How can they fix it?
So here's the deal. The internet is a living, breathing thing. The more you feed her, the nicer she is to you. So this is how I believe it to be true. I truly believe it to be true. When's the last time the majority of us have gone to the second page of Google? We haven't, right? People are looking and searching and looking for the first page of Google, unless you're running for office.
And only halfway down.
And only halfway through the page. It needs to exist, what we call old media. It used to be called above the fold in newspapers, right? Yeah. Now it's literally above the screen and in that space. And if it's not there, it doesn't exist, really, right? It's like, I can't find it, right? It's like, and then like, I don't know where it is. I don't know. I couldn't find her, right? You're done. Everybody's done. It's so much cardio to go down to the page and hit page 2. That's never happened.
My finger can't scroll that far.
It's never happened. It's not happening. So the more good you do. So say you had mishaps, say things weren't well, say you had a business that didn't work, say you changed the business name. Your job and obligation is to make sure that you are feeding the internet exactly what you want for it to see today. And you are feeding it as often as you possibly can so she's loyal to you. If you leave it there and you don't put anything good on top of it, it will remain. So I mean, that's just the quick and dirty, not to say that it's going to go away, not to say that what do you have out there cannot be found if somebody is digging deep. But as far as a quick reference for business, unless it has anything to do with government affairs or you being a politician, no one's going to the second page of Google to worry about you and your cupcake business. It's not happening.
Right.
They just want to know how to get in touch with you and if what you were saying or what your reference is saying is true and valid. So yeah, so my skill to you, if you've made mishaps, forgive yourself and continue to do good things.
Right.
If you have pivoted, make sure everything is updated. I think a lot of people, especially in their personal and their professional, one of the biggest mistakes is people don't update their business in the last place that they've worked, especially on Facebook. It has 3 jobs ago or 3 businesses ago on Facebook because they think that their business page is enough and that their LinkedIn page is enough. But make sure that when, again, it comes up, it says, oh my gosh, she's at Coldwell Banker, but I thought she moved over to Realty One. That might not be the right girl. You want to make sure that everything's up to date.
Right. Awesome. Yeah. So how often should people post?
So it depends on what you're able to manage. I suggest posting at least once a week, and that's for the slowest of the slow people. Me, I'm a lunatic, and I also own Medium. So I own a media outlet, so I have to post all day, every day to keep my engagement up, right? So that's the business that I'm in. Some people that are in the insurance business, lawyers, more traditional scenarios, it's not necessary. It's not because so much even for your audience as it relates to as opposed to the people that you want to find you. The last thing you want is for somebody to come upon any of your pages and think that you're in witness protection. Right? Or to think that your business is closed. So that's the first thing we see. We go to a restaurant, they haven't posted since 2016. We assume that they're closed. We assume they're no longer in business. You don't want to have all your efforts that you're doing offline be completely overshadowed by the fact that people can't connect with you online. So at least once a week, but beyond that, it's really about creating a schedule that you can manage. I suggest posting in the morning, ripping it off like a Band-Aid for those of you that aren't as versed, ripping it off like a Band-Aid, getting it done. It's the most engagement traditionally across the board. People wake up, they get associated, and then they start scrolling. So if you get them in the morning before they put it down for the rest of the stuff for the afternoon, that works out best. But at least once a week, I post I think a really strong brand at least posts every day. That's
your Instagram is like you post several times a day.
I do, if not more than several.
Yeah. I just scrolled through before we hopped on, and I'm like, damn, she's been busy.
It is. And in the medium space, I have my content, I have the content of the other shows I produce, I have the brands that we work with. So there's a lot of different content, but again, the more I feed her, the nicer she is to me. And it's worked in my favor, meaning the internet and the World Wide Web. Then it's worked in my favor in that way, but that's the business that I'm in. You might not necessarily need to if you're an organizer or a bakery, but I think it is important to be relevant and to stay top of mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and from a posting perspective too, it's not just social media. Like, you want to be updating your website so that Google sees you regularly.
Same thing. It's the same thing, and just think about it in a way of kind of waking up the internet, right? It's like waking them up it's literally feeding them. They're happy, they're energized, they come to you. If you have pets, you understand that, like, right? They know you walk in the door, they know that you're going to give them a treat. That's the kind of thing. And the internet is waiting for you in that way. If you don't, they're not going to come to you because you don't have anything to offer, right? So think about it that way, as opposed to, oh my gosh, it's so daunting. The other piece of advice that I can give for those people that aren't creative and they're not creating a lot of content, you don't always have to be the author of the content. Meaning, if you are not creative, I always say it's a 2-to-1 rule in what I teach. So 2 stories or 2 pieces of engaging content, and then 1 ask. I don't want you guys to ask, buy the house, buy the cookie, buy the cookie. Right. It has to be at least 2 pieces of content that either entertain or educate folks before you're asking for people to buy anything.
Right.
So, that out of the 2, one of those pieces can be created by someone else. It could be shared by Forbes magazine or the Food Network, or, OWN magazine. That affords you the ability to switch things up without having to create it on your
own. Right. And I love, what you're saying, because if you're just asking, you're not nurturing your people.
No.
Whether it's social media or your website in general, like, people need to be kind of pulled along and have like a little conversation with you before they want to buy, because there's so much noise out there, and they need to know, and trust you, and that you're authentic, and that you're going to be vulnerable, and that you can help them.
Yes. And that you provide value. And, and I think the analogy, I'm a queen of analogies, but the analogy that I use is, the friend that only calls and asks you for money or asks you for a ride.
Yeah.
At a certain point, you send that friend to voicemail. Like, you no longer pay attention to what it is that they're saying. You no longer can hear them because they're constantly asking, when they call you, they need something. And so you don't want to be a brand that's associated with always asking, because when you are trying to tell a story, they're going to be numb to it, or they're going to assume that the story that you're telling is only in order to get something from them. So, that's definitely important.
Yeah, definitely. Be a giver. I think that's super crucial, especially right now.
Yeah.
Keep giving and connecting and building those relationships, etc. So
100%.
Yeah. So let's talk about the show and your TV show a little bit and everything.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's so super fun. It's been a wild ride. Emmy's been along for the ride. The majority of the time that I've done it 5 days. So when we originally had started, even before that, IG Creative, which is my LLC, and then the parent company of this scenario, was a traditional PR marketing, graphic design, and web design agency. We were helping primarily small businesses in what I call finding their marketing voice. And they were having a hard time. People would come to me literally in a whisper. They would come to me and say, oh, I have this pen. I don't know if this, like all of these things. They would give me their last, $1,500 and say, here's my cookies, make me into Mrs. Fields. But they couldn't tell their own story. They couldn't string it together. They couldn't make it make sense. And what happened, the tough of it is, I would get them booked on, various shows and try to make it work, but they didn't have a voice. So I turned the camera on them and practiced. I've always wanted to be on TV in my youth. And so I used it as these dummy interviews.
That doesn't surprise me.
Shocker. I used it as this dummy interview. And it really kicked off. It was so super fun. Hello, my friend.
He's got a TV bomb.
I know, it's okay. Oh my God, so cute. And then it kind of came from there. And so I started recording. I met with beautiful Taquan Allen. We started producing a number of different programs in addition to mine over the last year. So it's been really exciting. And so we launched our Screamer program, which is a blogger program across the country. So we have screamers in San Diego and Portland and Pittsburgh and where else? Chicago and Denver. So all of these beautiful women that are contributing content to what we've got going on. So in this crazy time, I'm doing Zoom interviews with individuals with no geographic limitations, which is a wonderful thing. And then we're receiving blog posts from countless women across the country. So it's, we're doing our best to stay and thrive in this space.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So if people wanted to work with you, how can they do that?
So for me, there's a number of different ways. One is being a guest on the show, and that's a complimentary service if we have the time within our schedule. So you can just pop on and get in touch with us. Information on that obviously can be found at thisisittv.com. Mm-hmm. I also coach personal branding. So all the things in which I was talking to you about today, we have a new course that's starting. I'm in a course right now. I'm teaching a 4-week course. For $60 a course, which is, amazing. And hopefully people think it's amazing to be able to get the full Scream Your Dream workbook with me. And so I'm starting that again on May 18th. So if anybody would like to join me, that would be awesome. And I'll make sure that you guys have that link. Today's Wednesday, so I know I can share that with some folks. And then
if you're watching and you're interested in that course, drop a GIF or a high five or something down in the comments so that we can connect you and hook you up with Cheldin too.
Oh, I would love that. I would love that. So yeah, so the course and the show. I mean, and if you have a product that you'd like to promote amongst, our This Is It network, we're working with a number of different brands from supplements to jewelry to fashion. So if you have a brand that you'd like to share with our community, you can advertise with us as well.
Awesome. Yeah. And then you can find Cheldin on Facebook and Instagram and
everywhere you see at This Is It TV or at Cheldin Barlatt, you can follow, fan, and like me.
So thank you so much for hopping on with me today and being part of our tribe.
I love you.
Oh, I love you too. We have so much fun together. Houdini loves you too. He just got up from his nap.
Hello, my dog. It was my voice, which I'm not at all surprised.
Well, I mean, he's familiar, so it's all good. So for those of you who are watching too, I have Maddie Brown coming on next week. Yay. Her company is Smashing Numbers, and she helps small and medium-sized businesses take control of their business finances. I had her on my podcast last year. I'll put that link in at some point. But we're going to be talking about really mastering your money and what to do with all of it.
Right. What to do with all of it? That I have to tune into that. I have to.
You have to, because we're gonna be making it this year as soon as we get
truthfully
on track.
Exactly. And even in this, there's opportunities in this for sure. And I know that Emmy is going to help all of you guys navigate through that. And I'm here for you guys as well. So anything.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you.
Of course.
Bye, everybody.
All right. Bye-bye. Take care.